So today I'm going to be talking about art and some, but not all of my favorite types of art. Currently right now my favorite types are acrylic painting, body/face painting, watercolor painting, and charcoal sketches. I included some of the stuff that I've made as well as the materials that it took to make them. I'm going to start off with talking about the acrylic painting, only because it's the most common and has the potential to be of the cheapest. Now with any type of creating, you can get into the more expensive materials depending on where you go and the brands and stuff you use, but for me it just works to use the cheaper stuff, it's especially until I knew whether or not it was good or whether or not I enjoyed it. So a lot of my supplies came from Walmart, so the canvases are cheaper that way, and the paints I can get a fairly decent sized bottle for 50 cents a bottle. Some of the other stores that you can get a lot of materials at and they become more expensive is Michael's, Hobby Lobby, and Joann's, but with those stores they also have a wider variety, so it's easier to get more expensive. With acrylic painting, some of the canvases that you can use are just your generic stretch canvases, wood plaques, and even some fabrics you can paint on with acrylic painting. The materials that I stick to, or that you even need to get into acrylic painting, is just a generic variety pack of brushes to get the different sizes, the colors that you intend on using, and then the canvas or surface that you're going to paint, your rinse water, and then I've recently gotten into using the painting knives to help get some texture within the painting. I also have easels. I have a floor easel, and I have a table easel and a smock, but those are not necessary. So just some of the things that I use real fast is your typical stretch canvas. I get these from Walmart, and then your different bottles of paint. These are 50 cents a piece at Walmart. I use just a cheap variety pack of brushes because they last as long as you take care of them. My palette, and then some of the different things that I've done are just on just normal canvases here, and then some fabric painting that I've done. I haven't washed these yet, so I'm not sure if it stays in. And then the knives, which you will frequently see Bob Ross using. And then because a lot of these materials are similar to what you use, or what I use when I paint bodies and or faces, they're the same material. Sometimes when I do the face painting, I'll use the sponges because it helps to blend easier and it's softer on people's faces. And it comes off with soap and water, so that's just what I use. They have special face painting stuff, but it's more expensive. The next topic will be watercolor. So this has, again, the potential to be more expensive than acrylic, and it can get a little bit more complicated, but it's still very common, and especially among younger kids, that's typically what you sit them down and have them play with. So the materials are, again, very similar. Your paint, your brushes, your rinse water, and then blending water, and then your canvas, or a lot of times they'll use paper, which comes in notebook form, and you can get that at Walmart as well. Immediately when I think of watercolor painting, I think of the like the clear container with the different color blocks in it to get your color, and then you wet your brush and you go at it. It's common and it's cheap. I use the tubes of painting because it gives me a bigger variety of color, and I can get the different hues with it easier because I know what color I'm working with immediately. And I also use brush pens, and these help to keep your color in the brush and keep it wet constantly, so you don't have to keep redipping, and you can control how much water is on your brush. So the more water, the lighter the color, less water, the darker the color. And the blending is also easier with this type of creating because you just re-wet the color and then you can blend it together. With watercolor painting, you typically have less defined shapes, so you're working with more of a shadow and silhouette style of painting. That's done in layers, which helps to add dimension. So when you're doing these layers, It can take some time for them to dry in between adding color. Otherwise, you know, you're not just re-wetting the color and blending them. I have, and you don't need it, but it's just a dryer. We got it off of Amazon. And then it dries it. It takes a couple of seconds. You run it over the painting, and then you can move on to your next one, so it doesn't take as long. And then here is one of the watercolor paintings I did. I used acrylic at the bottom for the texture, but most of that's watercolor. Next, I enjoy doing charcoal and just sketches. And they're easy to fix mistakes. You just erase. Sometimes it'll smear, but you just erase it and then hope it adds to the picture itself. I enjoy how the picture contains the shadow and highlights, and the way it draws you in and the time it takes to create them. Even if you're staring at a picture, it can still take, you know, hours to make it look exactly how you see it in front of you and convey it to someone else to be that same image. I don't have any of the materials here for that, but typically you just have your sketchbook, your pencils, and then a blender and eraser. Q-tips also work for blenders. Instead of buying a pack, you can just use Q-tips. They're cheaper and you get more of them. So with all of these things, obviously I'm not the best, but it's just a way that I express myself. And I found that the more that I'm able to afford some of the stuff I do, it is in artsy avenues. And then my favorite part of art itself is just the variety that you get with it. I mean, painting, music, singing, writing is all art, and everyone can do it. And even if you're not good at it or you don't think you're good at it, it's still something that you made, which is, I think, cool. So thank you for letting me talk about my favorite types of art and show off some of the stuff that I have done. So, and there's the face painting that I've done. Smile, please. Okay, that's all.